Okay, so now that we have done a fluency exercise in this form, we're going to go ahead and try going through a whole lesson. So this video will be a little bit longer than our previous video, and it will start to tell you about that objective that we read in the first video. So we'll read the objective one more time. I can sort and record data into a table using up to 4 categories. I can use category counts to solve word problems. So let's start with an application problem. Our application problem says there are 24 penguins sliding on the ice. There are 18 whales splashing in the ocean. How many more penguins than whales are there? So I'll give you a second to think about how you might set up this problem. Alright, so let's work through it together. I'm thinking about a comparison here, right? Because I see how many more. And when I'm comparing these numbers, I'm going to use subtraction. So this tape diagram can help us kind of figure this out. Here, P stands for penguins and W stands for whales. So we have our tape diagram right up here with 24 and then down below here with 18. And we're wondering about this question mark. What is the difference between these two numbers? So if I want to find that difference, I can use this subtraction problem. 24 minus 18 equals blank. Or I can think about it in terms of addition and say 18 plus blank equals 24. Either way, you should come out to an answer of 6. So there are 6 more penguins than whales. 24 minus 18 equals 6. Or 18 plus 6 equals 24. For our concept development, we're going to go ahead and be looking at animal characteristics. We're going to be classifying a bunch of animals so we can look at the data that comes out as a result. The 4 categories that we're going to look at first are going to be birds, mammals, reptiles, and fish. And because we might not be super familiar with the characteristics of each of these types of animals, we'll have this chart pulled up when we go to sort our animals. So let's give this a try. Let's say I have 2 legs, wings, feathers, and I can fly. What am I? I'm looking at my 4 categories. How would you categorize the animal I just described? The answer is bird, because you have feathers, wings, 2 legs, and it doesn't say it here, but I can fly, so that's going to be a bird. And then these are some sentence stems that we'll be thinking of as we go to classify our animals. So for instance, if I wanted to use these sentence stems for my clownfish right over here, I might say, a clownfish has orange and white stripes. It can breathe underwater and swim. It is a fish. So that is how I would classify it. So let's go ahead and sort animals by category, and we'll use our little chart up here for some hints to help us classify. First we have a penguin. So a penguin has feathers, and it has wings, and it has 2 legs. So that's going to be a bird. Then we have a clownfish. So clownfish, we just categorized already, was a fish. Then we have a polar bear. A polar bear has fur. It gives live birth, it has lungs, and it's warm-blooded, which helps it survive in a cold climate, so it's going to be a mammal, just like us. And then we have an owl. An owl is a bird. It has the feathers, as you can see, the 2 legs. Then we have a snake. So this snake is got scales. You can see the scales here. It's got drier skin than a fish, and it has no legs, and it lays eggs. So this is going to be a reptile. And now you can see we have 1 animal at least in each category. And we have 1 category that already has 2 animals. That is our bird category. So let's keep going. We have a lot of data to work with when we go to make our charts. Here we have a seahorse. A seahorse is a fish. Then we have the Arctic fox. I see it has its fur and it's warm-blooded. That's how it survives in that really cold environment. So it is a mammal. Then we have a dolphin. And even though a dolphin lives underwater, it comes to the surface to breathe because it has lungs, just like you and me. So it is a mammal. Then we have another bear. This bear is going to go with our polar bear friend. It's a mammal as well. We have a bunny. So a bunny is warm-blooded. It has fur. It's a mammal as well. Then we have a gecko. A gecko has 4 legs, it has dry skin, and it usually lays eggs, so that's going to be a reptile based on its category. Then we have an iguana. An iguana is going to go with our other lizard friend that we just sorted. Is a reptile as well. And we have a snake. So this snake is going to go with the previous snake that we had already sorted because you can see it has those scales, has that drier skin, no legs, lays eggs and is cold-blooded. And then we have a shark. A shark, you can see it has its gills here, it has fins, so it is the fish. We have a rodent. A rodent is a mammal. We have another bird here. So we'll put our bird up there. And we have a chicken. Chicken is going to be in our bird. Here we have an orca. An orca is just like the dolphin. It lives underwater, but it comes to the surface to breathe because it also has lungs. And it gives a live birth, and it's warm-blooded, so it is a mammal. Then we have a sea turtle. A sea turtle is a reptile. And then last, we have an Arctic seal. An Arctic seal, you can see all that fur, and you can see it's also surviving that cold climate, so it's warm-blooded as well, so that's another mammal. Alright, so this is enough animals for us to start tabulating some data and developing some clear images of what this data means. So here we've created a table from our data. We've used tally marks to create this table to see the data more clearly. So you see here we have tally marks are bundled in groups of 5. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when we want to make the 5th one, we just dash across. So this represents a group of 5, just like the nickels that we looked at yesterday. Every single one of those nickels represented 5 cents, and every group of tally marks just like this represents 5 animals, or 5 tallies. So we want to go ahead and confirm that all of the data we have in this chart is correct. So we're going to count up our tallies and then count up our pictures and make sure we have the right number in each category. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4 tally marks, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 birds. So that's right. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? This is our group of 5. 6, 7, 8. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that is correct. And then reptiles, I just have that one group of 5. You can see how easy that is to see. We'll count to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there is indeed 5 in the reptile category. And then for fish, we have 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So looks like all of this data is correct. Let's go ahead and see what else we can do with this data. So let's see, how many categories does this table have? Let's count them up. We've talked about it so far, but 1, 2, 3, 4 categories. So I have 4 categories in this table. How many animals did we sort all together? We can go ahead and add up our 4 categories. 4, 8, 5, and 3. 4 plus 8 plus 5 plus 3 is going to equal 20. Now we can answer some comparison questions. How many more mammals are there than fish? So I want to take my mammal number and subtract my fish number. 8 minus 3 equals 5. So there's 5 more mammals than fish. Then for our last question, it says, how many fewer birds and fish are there than mammals and reptiles? This is kind of tricky because it wants us to first add up how many birds and fish we have all together, and add up how many mammals and reptiles we have all together, and then compare those two numbers with subtraction. So birds and fish equals 4 plus 3, which would be 7. Then we have mammals and reptiles, which is 8 plus 5 equals 13. And then we compare those two numbers by saying 13 minus 7 equals 6. That means there are 6 fewer birds and fish than there are mammals and reptiles. How would the table change if we counted 4 more birds? So if we added 4 more to this category right up here, we'd have 4 plus 4, which equals 8. So one of the ways the table might change is now there would be an equal number of birds and mammals. There would be 8 in each category. Now I want you to think about this question in red. What are some other ways we could organize these animals? I'll give you a few seconds to think about how you might organize these animals differently. So I'm thinking maybe we could sort them by color, we could sort them by what they prefer to eat, or we could sort them by where they live, which would be called their habitat. And that's actually what we're going to go ahead and do right now. We're going to sort these animals by their habitats, or where they live. We're not going to go back through all of the animals because that might take a little while. We're going to go ahead instead, and I've already tabulated this data for you. I've already put it together in this table. And so we'll go ahead and just look at it now. So there's 4 animals that live in the Arctic, where they're really, really cold. Then we have 10 animals in the woodlands. The woodlands are forested areas. And we have 6 animals from the ocean. So now we're thinking, how many categories does this table have? We have Arctic, woodland, and ocean. So we have 1, 2, 3 categories. Which category has the fewest animals? The fewest animals is going to be 4. So the Arctic has the fewest animals. And which has the most? 10 is our biggest number here. So the woodlands have the most animals. What is the total number of animals that live in the woodlands and the ocean? So for that we want to total this combination. 10 plus 6 equals 16. And then how many fewer animals live in the Arctic than in the ocean? So this is one of those comparisons where we would want to say 6 minus 4 equals 2. So then we know that there are 2 fewer animals living in the Arctic than in the ocean. Then those last couple, I'll let you read over them and go over them. And just be thinking about how you would solve those problems. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So now we have our problem set. So just like the problem set in class, you're going to have some time to work on these independently or with some help if you have some older siblings at home. And for this first one, it says, count and categorize each picture to complete the table with tally marks. So I'm going to go ahead and give you 2 minutes to work on this whole page, and then we'll come back to Devin.